Hey, Anissa Coy here with Firehouse Education, and you guessed it, a new episode of Ask Annissa video column. And today, the email that we got came in from Mark. And here's what Mark had to say. Hi, Anissa. I stumbled upon your YouTube channel when trying to find videos on cleaning household items with ultrasonics. I find used items and I resell them on eBay, and quite often those items need a good cleaning, such as years of coffee stains or other gunk buildup. And I was wondering if ultrasonics would be good and importantly safe. This, of course, would be small scale and only require a 6 or 10-liter unit. I haven't bought one yet, but I have been researching them. So after glancing through several of your video titles, I saw a couple that talked about dishes in what appeared to be porcelain or bone china. And I wondered if you had a list of household items that you can use ultrasonics with and items that you should avoid. Today, for example, I was looking over a piece of painted pottery with some gold inlay that was seriously gunked up with, well, I don't know what. Soap and water wasn't cutting it, and I was getting nervous about the paint coming off. And my thought was, would the paint on this porous material stand up to ultrasonic or would it just easily float away? I appreciate any insight you can provide, Mark. Okay, Mark. Oh my gosh, this is one of my favorite topics, ultrasonic. Ultrasonic is amazing and incredible, especially when it comes to restoring items. Now, there's a few key things you have to think about. So, ultrasonic can obviously only be used on items that could be completely immersed in water. So they're not going to get damaged, right? You can't do dried flowers or anything paper, but you can do metal. You can do porcelain with a couple of caveats. You can even do clay, again, with a caveat or two. You can do like knickknacks, anything glass. You can do metal again, but you have to be careful because if it's painted metal, you can take the paint right off. So there's a ton of items that you can use ultrasonic on. However, you have to be careful. So there's some key things for you to think about in the ultrasonic. Now, this unit that you're researching, some of the smaller units that are like the home use units, not a professional unit like we usually use in restoration companies, they have a much lower intensity of the ultrasonic vibration, the cavitation itself. So that's going to give you a little bit more ability to put items in it without getting damaged. However, it's also going to lower the ability to take the gunk, as you put it, off of the item. So a couple of key things. One, to make sure that you've done pre-soaking. Pre-soaking is very important so that you can loosen up the potential stuff that's on it you're trying to remove and would potentially lessen the time that we need to have it in the machine itself, thus lessening potential damage. Now, the other thing is using the right solutions. So I love using a solution called Evergreen. It's made by Benefect. It is wonderful. And I use that solution for my pre-soak as well. You want to follow the dilution that comes on the container. And then again, depending on the item. So we want to be very careful about certain things. So for instance, china that has gold overlay, you want to be very careful. And I would definitely do pre-soaking so that I've got maybe less time in my ultrasonic machine because you can remove the gold overlay. And, porcelain that is not glazed is going to be very absorbent and porous. So that may not be a good candidate for the ultrasonic. You can dip it in the ultrasonic, but again, you're going to want to not have it in there for a long length of time. And something like that and or fine china, you're not going to want to have the intensity of the machine super high. Now, that's normally the advice I would give when you're using a professional unit because their intensity can be very intense. However, on a home unit, the intensity is probably a lot lower. And sometimes you're going to find because that intensity is a lot lower on a smaller, like a home ultrasonic machine you would buy, say online, it may not be strong enough to remove the gunk, as you put it, or contamination that you're wanting to remove. But it should work pretty well on a lot of items. Now, you're not going to want to dip something like a porcelain doll in there. That's not a good plan. Things like crystal do wonderful in ultrasonic. Again, making sure that the intensity level is lowered because you can break the porcelain. You can also break china. So, one of the fears that we have when we're doing ultrasonic is breaking the item. So for instance, fine china can have a lot of hairline fractures in it that we don't see with the naked eye. You dip it in an ultrasonic machine, you could potentially break it. The other thing is an ultrasonic machine, water needs to be very, very warm. A professional unit is usually about 120 degrees. A home unit obviously is going to be lower in temperature, so that's not quite as worrisome. But you're going to want to think about that before you dip a like crystal or piece of china in it, especially if it's cold or room temperature. You're going to want to warm it up. That's where a pre-soak a bath that's in hot water is going to be very beneficial, because it's going to heat up the glass or the china or the whatever it's made of item, so that when you stick it into that super hot water, it's not just going to bust because the water's so hot and it's such a temperature change and or crack it. So how long you leave an item in is again going to depend on the level of contamination and how much what the item is made of. Okay. So when it's a delicate item, I will normally start with a lower, time. So like, for instance, I'd only do it for maybe 30 seconds at a time and check it. Now, one thing I want to caution you is when you're using ultrasonic, some people make the mistake that they think, oh, I'm going to help the machine. So while it's cavitating and working, I'm going to have a scrub brush in there and I'm going to be scrubbing the items, or I'm going to move it around. If you do that, you negate the cavitation, okay? The bubbles, if you will, that are created in there that do the cleaning and all the magic, you will cause them to not, you'll negate them, and so they won't work. So if you're gonna do any light agitation, I like to call it, of an item, you're gonna wanna wait till the machine's done, lift the items out, and then agitate it outside of the ultrasonic unit, rinse it off what you were able to get loose, and then put it back in the machine. So you don't wanna move it around when it's in the machine. I do have a few videos on the YouTube channel that'll kind of help with that. And if you're watching this and you are a restoration company, we have a training membership site at firehouseeducation.com that for a very nominal fee, it's like $97 a month, you can subscribe to that, and I have a ton of detailed training videos on there using an ultrasonic machine and how to properly, maintain it, clean it, the solutions to use, and what items you can and can't dip in the ultrasonic machine, and then how to process them from there. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you, Mark, so much for the email. I hope that helps. And good luck to you on your eBay journey in cleaning and restoring items. I love that. And you guys know the drill. If you have a question for me, please be sure and send me an email, Annissa@firehouseeducation.com, and put in the subject line, Ask Annissa. And maybe if you do that, I just might feature you on next week's Ask Annissa video column.